Greetings, listeners, and welcome to the third episode of the Greenlit Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Joda, and with me, as always, is DeCruz.
Hey, guys.
Hello. This weekend, we took a lovely little trip to Brighton. We enjoyed the beach and the pier.
Enjoyed isn't quite the right word, really, is it? Because it was raining, it was windy. It was actually quite a miserable time at the seaside.
But we did take shelter. We took shelter in the Rezzed Games Festival run by Eurogamer and Rock Paper Shotgun, and it was pretty good, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, we got quite a bit of hands-on time with quite a few games, and got to speak to the developers and get some insight into what we can expect in the future from these games. And there was quite a few gems that I didn't even know of, that are just floating around.
That was the fun thing about it. I mean, there was the selection of sort of AAA titles that had kind of been relegated and over into the corner of the room in an over 18 zone. But even though it had that massive over 18s only sign and the young sort of gamers peering inside, wondering, well, what's going on? What kind of wonderful mysteries are in there? To be honest, it was quote unquote the AAA titles, the Alien Colonial Marines, the Battlefield Premium, the FarCry 3, which, they looked really cool, but...
Yeah, you know what to expect from them, basically.
That's the thing, juxtaposed against all of those indie games just outside, the indie games seemed a little bit more, interesting and original compared to lots of these sequels that we've kind of seen before, these formulaic games that really I kind of walked in, I had a look around, I had a quick play on some of them, but then I thought, actually, I'm just going to pop back out now and just check out some more of these indie titles because they were good fun.
Yeah, so I guess we should run through them.
Yes, some of them that piqued our interest indeed. You latched onto one right through the...
as soon as I walked through the doors.
Your eyes lit up.
Yeah, well, the first game I saw there was Strike Suit Zero. Now, the thing is, I knew about this game previously, and it was being developed by Double Six, branch of Q.U.B.E, but that's actually, after speaking to the developers, they've actually closed Double Six as such and re-emerged as Born Ready Games, and they've split off from Q.U.B.E. Turns out they got some venture capitalist money, and so Q.U.B.E still have some money involved in the project, so they're going to get some returns from it. But for the most part, they're just now separate as their own thing. They own their own IP, and the game cool. Is basically it looks like, it plays a lot like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. It's, you play as a spaceship, go around and shoot stuff in space. It's really good fun.
I like this. I love TIE Fighter. I love anything that kind of gives me that feel. I liked it. Sorry, back to you.
Well, yeah, we haven't seen many space shooters around these days. It's a missed genre. I miss it. I want it back, and they're bringing it back. But their little unique thing is it's called Strike Suit Zero. You fly around in this strike suit. At the moment they call it a rage meter, but I was informed by the dev that they're not going to keep that name. It's just a placeholder name for the moment. But you build up the rage meter, and then it allows your ship to transform, and then you have full lateral movement while in this transformed like robot form, and it was pretty good fun. And of course, like, you can run out the bar, or you can just use it situational. You're much more versatile in the robot form, and I think you use different weapons as well.
There was a sort of like an anime-inspired 1,000 missiles shooting your backpack or something, and it was exploding all around in those wonderful kind of twirls of smoke that you get in Gundam and such.
Yeah, so that's one I'll be looking out for.
That's one I shall be looking out for. What formats is that coming out on?
It's going to be an Xbox Live game.
Cool.
From what I saw, possibly PSN though as well. But the build that they had on at Rezzed was definitely Xbox.
Cool. We sort of moseyed around to some stalls around the side for a game called Skulls of the Shogun, which is again something you recognised.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. Again, I like these quirky like turn-based strategy games. This one's being developed by a team called 17-Bit, and Well, it's got a quirky art style. It's very similar to Castle Crashers, really.
Well, what is the art style? What sort of
It's
genre is it
cartoony,
going
big
for?
heads. And they're all like, well, they're undead Shogun warriors. You know, you've got your Shogun, you've got your archer, you've got your soldiers, and at the map, it's very cartoony, and you could mistake these characters being in Castle Crashers, really.
Yeah. It's sort of set in a ancient feudal Japan, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a quick turn-based strategy game. It doesn't take you 20 minutes to play. These games will probably be over in like 10, 15 minutes, at max. The gameplay is very similar to Advance Wars in the sense you take over a location, a resource gathering point, and you get resources and then spawn a new unit and then take that out. And the objective is not to take an enemy base, but to kill the enemy Shogun. And the Shogun's a really powerful unit, so unlike Advance Wars, it's not the gameplay is not very rock paper scissors. It's more of every unit is useful, but in a different way. So you wouldn't get the situation. I don't know if you played Advance Wars, but if you've got a mega tank and you've got a soldier, the soldier's not likely to take out the mega tank at all, unless there were like 100 soldiers. But in this case, you've got an archer and a soldier. The soldier is close range, the archer is long range, but they're both capable of taking each other out. And so the environment plays into it a little bit more.
Cool.
But
they were really excited to talk about their multiplayer options as well.
Move on to that.
Incredibly versatile.
You spoke to them about their asynchronous play?
Yeah. I mean, I was watching two guys playing local multiplayer, but I was quite interested to hear that they're doing asynchronous play, which they're saying is the first for Xbox Live, and you'll be able to send your turn to your offline mate. He'll be able to then log in when he's ready and take his turn backwards and forth, and also that it's cross-platform to the Windows Phone.
They did say their release date is kind of dependent on Windows 8, so because they're going to be Windows 8 Phone, Xbox Live, and PC. So
playing live across between phone and an Xbox, which sounds pretty cool. Cool. And then you got stuck, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I was wandering around, and I think I was just kind of standing there trying to look at this game that was on show, and I got roped into playing, and so I was like, okay, I'll sit down and play, I'll give it a chance.
Sit down.
And this game was called Warmage Battlegrounds, and this is like a free-to-play fantasy turn-based strategy game. It's very similar to like Heroes of Might and Magic in terms of its system, but as the guy said to me, but better. That's how he sold it to me. It's a cutesy little art style. It's a small company. The gameplay itself was quite fun. You basically select a group of units, you take it into a fight. You can play against people or AI or cooperative against AI. And it has one of the main features seems to be this flanking maneuver. So if you get two units either side of you, they then get extra damage on but my one criticism of the game is probably its UI, because it wasn't very clear. I was constantly confused why my units weren't dying and numbers were going down.
Asking like, what is this that, or is this, is that his health bar, is that whatever, and then the guy kept going, no, that's actually something else, but then he would admit, but I can see why you might think that. So he did say that. So maybe they might tweak that. They maybe could use some feedback on that UI, and hopefully they'll tweak it a bit. But no,
I mean, this game is actually live now. It's not so much in beta.
Yeah, it's free to play, browser-based strategy game, isn't it?
Yeah. One of the guys also mentioned he was the third person involved in a Riot Games and League of Legends, so the payment structure is very similar to League of Legends. You essentially turn up and you can earn new units for your strategy game by just playing, or you can fork out a bit of cash and just buy some units.
Yeah. But unlike League of Legends, sort of graphical wowing, this is much more of a 2D web-based
Yes, it is very
strategy
2D.
game.
Yeah.
So even though it was set up by someone involved with League of Legends, it's much more like the Might and Magic kind of 2D sprites. Quite nicely drawn. Yeah, it looks good. Certainly got a nice look about it though.
And then moving on, we caught one of our friends, didn't we? Playing on natural selection.
Yeah.
Frustrating playing.
Yeah. Quite a hardcore sort of PC player, really. You're supposed to just sit down at these pods and just jump in and, have a blast for a few minutes, get kind of, loose feel for the game, maybe pique your interest. But he sat down, he starts adjusting the control sensitivity, tweaks the V-Sync. He's going, maybe the V-Sync's quite wrong. I'm like, goodness me, just stop playing. But, I guess he just wanted to experience it at its best, I guess.
I
Natural Selection 2.
Sorry. I ended up jumping on the game just to go in and kill him as one of the enemy team because he was taking so long. But it was a game I've never heard of. I think I missed the boat on this one. So Natural Selection 2 it is, made by Unknown Worlds, but originally started out as a Half-Life mod, I hear.
That's right. I played it many, many moons ago, and I walked up to it thinking, that sounds kind of familiar, because I haven't played it for so many years. It used to be a favourite at LAN parties ages ago, but I was kind of walking towards it going, I think I know, I'm pretty sure I know this, and then, oh, right, yeah, I haven't played this for maybe 10 years. It's really cool though. It's good fun. It's probably something I'd like to get back into, and this is going to be a standalone game, Natural Selection 2, rather than the Half-Life mod that it was previously. But
so from what I understood from the mechanics, you've got two leaders, and they essentially command like the strategy side.
That's right. In a top-down view, they see the entire map and can drop down resources and traps, etc. To the units in the field that are actually in the first person.
Yeah. The enemy team I was playing as, the kind of the creatures, they have an evolving mechanic. It's like you gain points, and then you can use these resource points to then evolve into a new life form. I got a chance to evolve into basically the highest tier life form available.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I did enjoy kind of just rumping into the enemy base and just pounding on everything as they spawned, destroying turrets. I think I killed like 4 or 5 people in a row and destroyed half the base just on my own. Maybe slightly unbalanced, I'm not sure.
I guess they're improving their turrets and their weapons and things on that side, so they've had 10 years to kind of tweak this mechanic, so I'm sure they've probably got it down pretty good.
And then we moved on to really indie titles, didn't we? And like,
they had a great Miami. Sort of experimental setup of all these random kind of indie games down there, and a whiteboard behind each one with some dangling black marker pens, so that you could basically play the game, and then whatever you thought about it, whatever your comments were, was to then lean over and then write on this whiteboard behind, whether you loved it, whether you hated it, they could do anything, just any kind of thoughts. It was quite fun, and there wasn't really much introduction to any of these games though, so you would just sort of sit down, pick up the controller, and try and work out how to play. And one of them that was a big crowd around was Hotline Miami, which that's sort of developing a crowd just because of such a unique such a distinctive look. There seem to be a lot of kind of pixel art sort of games out there, but it has a very distinctive look because of its brutality as well.
Who's it developed by?
Developed by Denaton Games, which I've got here as a collaborative label by Cactus and Dennis Whedon. It is incredibly brutal. Top-down action game, pixelated, crazy neon colors. It's sort of a super hyped version of a cocaine 80s Miami. It is utterly bonkers. It actually reminded me, the art style reminded me a little bit or the presentation really reminded me a little bit of an old game called Dreamweb, which I used to love, which again was this sort of very brutal top-down adventure game. But this one involves a player donning masks and then taking these crazy jobs involving lots of killing, lots of maiming, lots of really obscene, bonkers action.
It seems very similar to like the original GTA. Like
it kind of is in that way. Yeah, it really, really kind of is. You certainly get that feeling when you're looking at it. But and it was certainly drawing a crowd, and I'll have to give it a look, because the soundtrack was great fun as well. The look of the game with its fake magnetic sort of distortion, waves of like chromatic aberration. Maybe you've left a magnet on top of the old TV and it looks really weird, and it just looks.
It's definitely worth a look.
Worth checking out, I think. Yeah, definitely worth checking
out. There was another one there right next to it, Gunpoint. But I didn't really get a chance to play on that. Did you?
Yeah, Gunpoint I followed for a while, and sort of the first time I've seen it playable, and kind of interesting. It's developed by a guy called Tom Francis, who, as a games journalist, has finally sort of put his money where his mouth is and actually made his own game, and it's turned out pretty cool. You basically play this sort of secret agent who has to break into this building and complete a task. But the crux of it, from what I could work out, is being able to, as you infiltrate this building, you're able to tweak the security systems and reroute all of the different lighting, elevators, security cameras, etc., in different ways, so that turning the light switch might actually, I don't know, call the elevator or something. But in making these subtle reconnections, you can fool guards into going into a room where the lights have just gone off to turn the lights back on, only that might be connected to opening a security door that then allows you to do something and progress. And it's this sort of like manipulating systems. You can unlock special abilities.
Basically
as well.
A clever little puzzle game.
Yes. Yeah.
Just in the context of electric wiring and guards.
2D game. The building is sort of split down the middle, and you work your way up to whichever room you've got to go to. But in order to do so, you must pass these puzzles we have, which involve rerouting systems. And it looks quite fun. It's quite brain teaser.
Yeah.
It's good.
Now we got to the best part. Now what we've saved till last is basically all the talks that were on at Rezzed. Unfortunately, we didn't go on the Friday, but the ones that are there on the Saturday were quite entertaining. RAD Soldiers by Splash Damage / War Chest. It wasn't solely about RAD Soldiers. It was just about Splash Damage in general and how they got started, and the fact they managed to stay independent throughout the years. It was the speaker. He was the founder of Splash Damage, and one of the funniest little stories he told was like his dossier. Like if you went to pitch to a publisher, I'm this awesome guy. So how he started off would be, in this year I quit school, or I was expelled from school. The following year I got a job doing this. Got fired for playing games, and then he continued down this list. Just this crazy story of his life.
He seemed to keep getting fired for playing games, which
to the point where he finally decided, I think I should make games. And then they started out with modding, the Quake engine and building like Quake Wars, enemy territory, all sorts of stuff like that. And now the fact that their new strategy is based around building games for every platform.
Yeah.
So RAD Soldiers is another turn-based strategy game. Seems to be a lot of turn-based strategy games coming out now. But looked aesthetically like Team Fortress 2.
Sort of like, what would it be? Like a Team Fortress meets
meets XCOM from my point of view.
Everything was something meets XCOM, wasn't it? God.
Yeah. But
maybe Final Fantasy Tactics or something. It's kind of like that.
He wouldn't mention what else they were working on. They had several. He did mention there was several other projects on the go for the other platforms, including PC, console.
RAD Soldiers was iOS only at the moment, but they may go to others.
Yeah. And then there was DayZ with Dean Rocket Hall.
DayZ.
Well, DayZ. Yes, doesn't have the same ring to it. But DayZ, yeah, I mean, he was really interesting. It's just the fact the philosophy of building the game isn't so much about building game mechanics. It's more about building tools to survive a simulation. So even though it's got zombies in the world running around, and that's just a, a survival aspect of the game, really. That they're
That's
there,
right. Yeah,
they're like a
he
hostile.
sounded like he didn't want to introduce too many mechanics that would spoil the sensation, the feel of the game, the atmosphere of it, which
Yeah.
was quite nice. He wanted to leave players always feeling that that they were sort of in control of this world maybe,
Yeah.
and not that they were having to conform to gameplay mechanics. They could actually make whatever they wanted of it. And he told that great story that sort of made it. I think there was in an article on Kotaku as well and a few other websites about the player getting kidnapped at gunpoint by 4 other players and then being made to enter first into the buildings to check out for zombies. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just great fun. And this
But it
emergent
was also that
gameplay
one
is
story that
wonderful.
he told about where a whole bunch of new players were wandering around and they went to the airfield. It was like mistake number 1, going to the airfield, and then this another player just turns up and with an axe starts just hacking and killing them all, and they're like, "Why are you doing this?" And he says nothing.
Yeah.
Just everybody, and just walks away. Like that's emergent gameplay.
Yeah, but he really knew his stuff, didn't he? He clearly had a great sort of vision and idea for the game. But mentioned
very fixed on going the Minecraft route of like creating a world that everybody wants to be in.
Yeah.
And for players themselves to actually create the content or the purpose. Because essentially, if you go into DayZ, I'm saying it now, DayZ. If you go into DayZ and you don't really have a purpose. Your whole purpose really is just to survive. You don't really feel attached to your characters that much because if you die, you just spawn as a new character. But yeah, it's just building up a community and having this emergent gameplay, and that's what his main focus of his project is. And he's hoping to go standalone.
That's right. Yeah, he was mentioning quite a bit about standalone, about perhaps some limitations of the Arma 2 engine that they're working in now, and that if they were to go standalone, they could adopt the similar Minecraft kind of route of early adopters getting in cheap and helping to beta test the game. But he mentioned some nice ideas like getting rid of the global chat channel, maybe introducing some kind of shortwave radios, that kind of thing. But again, this all seemed to be hinged on them going standalone rather than developing those big ideas into the mod. So yeah.
Then the final talk that was there that we went to. There were other ones as well, but this was the last one that the two of us went to. Was the Prison Architect by Introversion. Now the talk was mainly about Subversion. Had been working on Subversion for quite some time, and they made these really intricate systems, much like Gunpoint in terms of like it was whole electrical systems they're building, wired through routers, alarm systems, and all sorts. And they were trying to come up with gameplay of like a thief stealing a ruby from a museum, and you could go to a room and disable the computers or change the lighting or switch all the stuff you could do at Gunpoint, but in a much more intricate way. But at the same time, they wanted to give the player a lot of freedom to do whatever they wanted. They wanted the player to come into a situation and have 50 different ways to solve it, and it's up to them if they felt clever doing turning off the lights and dodging the lasers or finding a way to show the lasers, all sorts of stuff like that. But he demonstrated the level that he had working in it, and he said, well, you'd have all these intricate ways and clever stuff to get past the puzzle, but what most people do was get their gun, walk up to the guard, and shoot him. So it was like he'd created this game with such amazing...
If gaming has taught us anything, it's that approaching a guard with a shotgun and shooting him normally gets you past the puzzle.
And we, as a game designer, you'd think, well, just make the thief not have guns. Just have him as a moral thief. But that seemed to be against their vision for the game. But ultimately, they went to the lead programmer guy, went to Alcatraz, was there and thought, prisons are really interesting. And they were going to have a prison in Subversion. And basically talked about how Prison Architect came from Subversion. How they'd taken the AI routines that they had for the guards and put it into all the units, people that fill the Prison Architect. So Prison Architect is very evil genius, XCOM style type of game. You build up a prison, and then as you build the prison, you populate it with prisoners and guards. It's kind of a mix between Evil Genius and XCOM and Sims, because all the guards and
Sims, if they were
the prisoners, they all have needs
like
and
murderers
wants.
and rapists. Right, okay.
Yeah, it was a very interesting game, and it's quite cool to see how they pretty much scrapped one game entirely and then created another game that looks nothing like the game that they just grabbed, but actually managed to salvage a lot of the tech that they created for Subversion and put it into Prison Architect.
Cool. And then we came across two interesting titles.
My favourite title.
Yeah, one of them being XCOM, the other one Xenonaughts. It was kind of weird, you know. We wait all these years for a decent XCOM remake, and then we end up with like 3 appearing. One's a first person, and then we've got 2 kind of remakes, true sort of strategy remakes of the original. But it was great having Firaxis there to do a presentation on their new XCOM game. And you liked it. I liked it.
I liked it. The thing they showed us in the little showroom was about a 5-10 minute demo of a mission. It was a very scripted mission. It was obviously a demo.
Yeah, definitely scripted to show off a lot of the sort of flashy bells and whistles that they've added.
Yeah, I mean, you start off with a crap squad and they got owned by the aliens. In fact, they actually introduced every alien type from the previous XCOM game. Well, you know, the original XCOM. They had the floaters, they had the chrysalists, they had the muters, the greys. Everything was there, and it was just just all at once. And of course, this kind of rubbish squad just got wiped out. But then they called in the reinforcements, which is with their leading the charge of the reinforcements was actually Sid Meier as he came onto the screen.
Modelled in game.
Yeah, he's modelled in game. It would have been amazing if Sid Meier just turned up and started doing his mind control powers.
Start mind controlling the audience by XCOM. Yeah, sorry.
I don't think they have to be mind controlled to buy it. It was pretty awesome. And then there was a Q&A session afterwards, and a few questions got asked. I asked about the procedurally generated content, because obviously XCOM, the original, was a lot of it was procedurally generated. But
yeah, it's quite an interesting response, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he said no, it's not procedurally generated, but there are a lot of maps, and that you would actually have to play through the game twice to see all the maps.
Yeah, so he said the game's been built with some kind of algorithm to make sure that it doesn't show you any kind of repeats until you're through your second playthrough, didn't he?
Yeah.
He seemed quite worried about the idea of these procedurally generated environments, and the team has obviously preferred to have made much more organic looking, true to life kind of environments rather than putting tile sets of different stuff together randomly. I guess we'll have to see. You know.
Yeah. I did manage to hijack the guy afterwards and get some more little info. One of the disappointing facts is there isn't going to be base invasions in the game. The aliens will not invade your base, which was quite a cool feature in the original XCOM. So
loved it in the original.
I mean, it did only happen if you were doing crap. It wouldn't.
I loved it in the original.
Obviously, you played.
But you had this great strategy to base building.
Yes,
I mean, you can find so many guides online to people going, make sure that you put the elevator entrance here and then put your hangar base there. And I was like, oh god. But it's a shame that in a way it's not there.
But overall, the game is run basically you're against the alien strategy, and that's a whole AI process going on in the background, and you won't have set levels, so you won't have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll just be happening organically, and you'll be doing something, and at some points when you've discovered certain technologies, or much like the original XCOM, the aliens will take a turn to do something.
Yeah.
In their strategy.
Yeah, I think the introduction of that sort of cinematic camera seemed kind of fun. I mean, it was happening all the time in the demo, but that was just really to show it off. I think he mentioned that it was cut down quite a lot in the full game, and that you can turn it off if you don't like it. So what happens is when you've made a shot against an alien, the camera sort of zooms in over the shoulder of your squad mate, and you watch the bullets or the lasers, whatever, impact in a slow-mo. They showed off the grapple as well, which is pretty cool, and invisibility armor as well, wasn't there? There was like
that's new to XCOM. Yeah. You can have your stealthed assassin just ride up to a guy and shotgun them. And then there was Xenonaughts.
Yeah, then Xenonaughts, and I mean, Xenonaughts is really cool, and it's basically being loved by exactly the same audience as all these people out there. They love XCOM, and we all want a great XCOM game. And I think Firaxis and Goldhawk are both going to deliver two really good games. I get the feeling Xenonaughts is going to be a much sort of more, I don't know, purer sort of experience.
I mean, it
that's
basically
what they're kind of going
is
for, isn't it? That's their shtick.
Yeah, I mean, it's XCOM reskinned. It's the original XCOM reskin with a few tweaks here and there, so it hasn't really evolved the formula too much. I know the Interceptor play is a little bit better than the original XCOM, but for the most part, if you like XCOM, the original, Xenonaughts will play pretty much the same.
Yeah. The art style almost reminded me a little bit of XCOM Apocalypse as well, and I was never a huge fan of that art style. But I basically, if it's going to be as good, if not slightly better than the original XCOM, then that's a wonderful thing. And Firaxis' XCOM also looks like it's going to be a wonderful thing. And it's just so happened we've waited all this time for a great XCOM game, and now there's loads of them. And and it's quite cool. I'll probably get both and play through both.
I think I'm gonna save myself for just the one, and it'll be the Firaxis one. I know I should really support the indie scene and Goldhawk.
Well, it's great, you know. It's basically a load of fans that became so desperate for a true, wonderful, authentic remake that they started their own thing, and I'm sure it's going to be good.
I think you can actually purchase the beta copy now on Steam if you want, and you can jump in that way.
Yes, yeah. Give Xenonaughts a look, and also, Firaxis XCOM certainly has the money and the pro skills behind it to make a really really sweet game. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
And yeah, I mean that's pretty much what we saw at Rezzed. It was a really good event. Personally, I loved it. I've been to TGS, and compared to TGS, I loved Rezzed so much more. It was
TGS when we were there. It was just packed with people. You could barely get a look in on any of the games.
Obviously, we weren't there during the press day. I mean, it could have been a different story. But as a consumer event coming to Rezzed, you got quick, easy access to all the products that were there, and there were developers on hand to talk to you. And
developers on hand, on floor, you know, ready to speak to you and engage to you. And the talks were fascinating as well, really insightful and good fun. Yeah. Comes around again. Go.
Yeah. And that's all from us. So I hope you enjoyed our little talk on Rezzed, and make sure you go to any more Eurogamer Rock Paper Scissors events that are out there. And as you know, you can follow us on Twitter at Greenlit Gaming, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Greenlit Gaming, and email us at greenlitgaming@gmail.com. And that's bye.
Bye-bye.